Hello, all, and thank you for always being here to uncover the latest news. If you've been following the recent political drama unfolding across the U.S., then you know that tensions between states and the federal government have been hitting some serious highs. Well, things just got even more intense. Over the weekend, a major legal battle erupted after a federal court in Oregon blocked the Trump administration from deploying Oregon's own National Guard troops. But in a surprising twist, the White House turned around and ordered troops from California to head into Oregon instead. Yeah, California's troops, crossing state lines, despite a judge's direct order saying no. So, what's going on here? Why is this happening, and what does it mean for the balance of power in America? Let's unpack this together. So, here's how it all started. For weeks, protests outside an IC facility in Portland have drawn national attention. The Trump administration argued that the situation there was putting federal property and personnel at risk, and that local law enforcement wasn't doing enough to protect them. In response, they tried to federalize Oregon's National Guard, basically taking temporary command of those state troops and using them under federal authority. Now, that's something presidents can do under certain circumstances, like if there's an insurrection or if state authorities can't maintain order. But the key word here is certain circumstances. It's a pretty high bar to meet. When the Trump administration tried to do this, Oregon's governor, Tina Kotek, pushed back hard. She said Oregon was fully capable of handling things on its own, and that bringing in federalized troops would only escalate tensions. Then came the courts, and Judge Karin Immergut, interestingly enough, a Trump appointee herself, sided with the state. She issued a restraining order that flat-out blocked the federalization of Oregon's Guard. She basically said, look, there's no legal justification for overriding state authority right now. But that's when things took a really unexpected turn. Instead of backing down, the administration shifted gears. Within a day of that ruling, they decided to call up about 200 members of the California National Guard, yes, from another state, and send them into Oregon under federal command. The White House argued that since the troops weren't from Oregon, the court order didn't technically apply. It was a legal workaround, or at least that's how they saw it. Now, imagine being in the judge's position when she found out. Late that night, the court called another emergency hearing. Judge Immergut wasn't amused. She extended her restraining order to cover not just Oregon's National Guard, but any National Guard troops being deployed into the state under federal control, including those from California. She questioned the administration's lawyers directly, asking how bringing in troops from another state didn't clearly violate her previous order. Her words were sharp, and her message was crystal clear. You can't sidestep the law just by swapping uniforms. This ruling, which will last for at least 14 days, essentially stops the deployment in its tracks while the larger legal fight plays out. And both Oregon and California's governors wasted no time celebrating the decision. Governor Kotek said the move to bring in California troops was an end run around the court's order, while Governor Gavin Newsom of California called the ruling a victory for the rule of law and announced that California's troops would be returning home. Now, this might sound like just another legal scuffle between state and federal powers, but honestly, it's so much deeper than that. This is a live test of how far a president can go when it comes to using the military or state-based troops inside the U.S. It's about the limits of executive power and how much authority states really have to say no. And if you think about it, that's a question that goes straight to the heart of how our federal system works. So, here's something to think about. Should a president be able to deploy troops across state lines if governors object? Or does that open the door to overreach, maybe even abuse, of federal power? On the other hand, if states can block every federal move, does that make it impossible for the federal government to protect its interests? It's a tough balance, right? And no matter which side you're on politically, you can probably see the potential dangers on both ends. One really interesting detail in all this is that Judge Immergut, the one who blocked the deployment, was appointed by Trump himself. And yet, she ruled against his administration, not out of politics, but out of constitutional duty. It's a reminder that even in these hyperpolarized times, the courts can still serve as a check on executive power. Whether you agree with her ruling or not, that independence is something worth thinking about. And beyond the legal and political back and forth, there's a human side to this, too. These are real soldiers, citizen soldiers, being ordered to move from one state to another in the middle of domestic unrest. They train to defend the country, not to be caught between political tug-of-wars. How must that feel? And how does it affect trust between the public and those who serve in the National Guard? For now, the situation is on pause. The restraining order will hold for 2 weeks, and both sides will present deeper arguments in court about whether the federal government has the legal authority to do what it's trying to do. But one thing's for sure, this fight is far from over. The outcome could reshape how future presidents use the National Guard, especially when it comes to domestic deployments. And it could set new boundaries for what states can and can't block when Washington decides to step in. So, what do you think? Should presidents have that kind of power to act when they believe federal interests are at risk? Or should governors have the final say when it comes to their state's troops? It's one of those debates that really makes you stop and think about what kind of balance of power we want in our country. Anyway, that's where things stand for now. It's a fascinating and honestly kind of nerve-wracking moment in American politics. I'll be keeping an eye on how the courts handle this because whatever happens next is going to set a big precedent for the future. Thanks so much for watching and for being part of this community that digs a little deeper into stories like these. If you enjoyed this breakdown or learned something new, please give the video a thumbs up, share it with a friend who follows the news, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and keeps you in the loop for more updates like this. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll catch you in the next one.